And in 1938, Phillip L. Boyd was appointed the mayor of the newly incorporated city of Palm Springs. And thanks to an interview recorded by the Palm Springs Library in 1986, his story can be told in his own words. Here's Steve Sumrall with this week's edition of Our Desert Past.
I was born in Indiana in a small town called Richmond, near the Ohio border, and we soon moved to Indianapolis, where I lived until I came west in 1920, and then was for a year in a sanitarium trying to recover from identified tuberculosis. And the year after that experience, I was advised to come to a dry desert, so in the Thanksgiving weekend of 21 was my first appearance at Palm Springs.
That's Phillip Boyd, the first mayor of Palm Springs, from an interview recorded in 1986.
And found the gates to take me into the Desert Inn, which was a well-established, attractive, small hotel. It didn't take long for me to recognize it was the right place for me to live in. I never went back for weeks and weeks to Los Angeles. I sent for my clothes and possessions that were brought down to me, and I settled in the Desert Inn for several years.
And then he fell in love with the desert, as so many have before him, and he bought a little house on El Alameda.
That little house was a 7-bedroom Spanish-style hacienda built in 1926 and immediately occupied by Phillip Boyd and his new bride, Dorothy.
He bought his wedding suit, and it was stolen when it was shipped to Palm Springs. So he had to get another wedding suit to get married, but him and his wife got married here in Palm Springs.
We had El Mirador in our side yard. Actually, our house was due south of the swimming pool itself, but our living room faced toward toward San Gorgonio.
Dorothy Marman Boyd was also an Indiana native. In fact, she was a member of Indianapolis's Marman family, who owned the Marman Motor Car Company. Now, most people today aren't familiar with the existence of the Marman Motor Car Company, but they are familiar with the Indianapolis 500. Well, the very first winner of that prestigious race was a Marman.
P.T. Stevens, who built the El Mirador, he had this big Marman convertible that he used to drive around town in, so that was pretty impressive.
Phillip Boyd would work as a secretary for the Palm Springs Chamber of Commerce, as well as open the first branch of the Bank of America in Palm Springs. Phillip Boyd would delve into real estate. He'd purchased large tracts of land in and around Palm Desert. In 1953, he would lease this area as a nature preserve, which is now the Living Desert Zoo and Gardens. Another landmark that the Boyds are known for is the Deep Well Guest Ranch. This former apricot farm was named the Deep Well Guest Ranch because it contained the deepest drilled well in the valley at 650 feet. Phillip and Dorothy co-owned the ranch with Palm Springs Historical Society founder Melba Bennett and her husband Frank.
We like that kind of life, the guest ranch. We won't use the word dude ranch, although it's similar because we did have horseback riding and so on. If I rode horses regularly for the first few years for exercise, it's how I became familiar with all the canyons, like Palm Canyon and Talquitz and out into the desert. It was a way to become familiar with the natural desert, which has always been of great interest to me.
The Boyds took an invested interest in their community and were strict advocates for incorporation, a process of which led to the construction of this high school.
But the time came when it was everybody's opinion that we needed incorporation. We were pretty far away from the central part of the county.
Our students were bused to Banning for high school. So to be able to qualify for the high school to be built during the Depression, you had to be a city.
And it was then that a series of meetings occurred, and in '38 we became incorporated.
Also in 1938, Phillip L. Boyd was sworn in as the first mayor of the city of Palm Springs.
We had a great satisfaction of being involved with the community as it grew and made many lasting friends.
The Boyds also did some farming in a location that today we definitely do not associate with farming.
We owned the land where Thunderbird Country Club is. We called it the Red Roof Ranch, and we were farmers there. We grew tomatoes and strawberries.
Thanks to Japanese help.
No, that was quite an experience there where you know Thunderbird is now, and it was an unfortunate one because the war came along and the Japanese, who we were very fond of, who did all our growing. I did the marketing. He was forced to go over with all the Japanese over into Arizona, you know. They couldn't stay, so we closed up the place and sold.
Phillip Boyd passed away on September 9th, 1989. About 1,700 acres of the land he owned has been donated for scientific research and is monitored by the Phillip L. Boyd Deep Canyon Desert Research Center. But it is his singular vision of a better desert community for which he shall always be remembered.
He not only, set the structure for the foundation of the community early, but he guaranteed that his legacy for the future.
For Our Desert Past, Steve Sumrall, NBC Palm Springs, News First.